my God, babes. Welcome back to the Snark side. I am so incredibly happy to be sitting here right now with my lemon water because we have so much to talk about. I just want to jump right in by saying a massive, heartfelt thank you to every single one of you hanging out with us today.
Truly the best community on the internet.
We absolutely fucking love the Snark Squad. You guys are the only people who truly understand the specific flavor of analytical brain rot that we operate on. The energy in the DMs this week has been giving me absolute life.
It really is elite. You guys match your freak perfectly, and you see right through the editing tricks, which is exactly what we need for today's agenda.
Literally perfectly. But, okay, before we get to the absolute mess on the streets of the valley today, babes, we need to talk about cults. We have to.
No, boy. Here we go.
No, listen, I just finished the Nature Boy documentary this morning, and I am fundamentally not okay. Like, what on earth did we just watch? I am reacting purely on a visceral, emotional level right now, but it is terrifying.
It is a wildly uncomfortable watch.
The sheer delusion, the absolute chaos of it all, I am spiraling. Like, how does a supposedly rational human being get to the point where they are just, blindly following a man into a compound, surrendering their bank accounts, and just cutting off their families? It genuinely broke my brain.
Okay, take a breath, have a sip of the lemon water.
I'm trying.
I know, it's a lot, but if we break it down analytically, the mechanics of manipulation aren't supernatural, right?
Sure.
They are incredibly clinical. It is textbook operant conditioning. It starts with isolation. Then you introduce sleep deprivation. Then it's the slow, methodical erosion of critical thinking through repetitive tasks.
Yeah.
What spirals me out, honestly, isn't even the charismatic leader. The leaders are predictable narcissists.
Exactly. They're all exactly the same.
Right. It's the followers. It's how easily the human operating system can just be hacked. You sit there on your couch thinking you are completely immune, but the psychological levers these groups pull are just so precise. It genuinely makes you question the concept of free will.
Yes. Which brings me to this thought I just could not shake the entire time I was watching it.
Yeah.
If it is that easy to hack the human brain in the physical world, do we think social media and internet culture make people more or less susceptible to cults today?
Ooh, that is a really good question.
Because I am firmly standing on the hill that we are exponentially more susceptible. Think about the architecture of algorithms. They literally function to put us in bespoke echo chambers.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
You click one weird, seemingly harmless wellness video about gut health, and suddenly, within 3 days, your entire feed is a synchronized chorus telling you to stare directly at the sun for cosmic nutrients.
Sun gazing. Oh my God.
Yes. And they tell you to stop drinking tap water and abandon your family because they operate on a low frequency. It is easier than ever to fall into a cult-like following because the indoctrination doesn't require you to move to Guyana. It happens right on your phone while you're laying in bed.
See, I'm going to push back on that heavily, actually.
You think we're safer now?
I do. I actually think we are far too chronically online and way too skeptical as a society now to fall for traditional cult mechanics. Think about it. We live in the era of weaponized receipt culture.
Okay, fair point.
We have literal snark threads dedicated to tracking the private jet flights of celebrities and exposing reality TV stars for slightly warping the baseboards in their Instagram photos.
Oh my God, the wavy baseboards kill me every time.
Right. So if a cult leader tried to rise up today, the Snark Squad would spot their bad Botox, pull their shady LLC public tax records, find their high school yearbook photos, and expose their entire operation on a Reddit megathread before they could even finish mixing the Kool-Aid. The internet is a panopticon, and it breeds cynicism.
Okay, I hear you. But I think you're confusing cynicism with immunity. Just because we can spot tragic veneers doesn't mean we aren't joining cults. It just means the cults have changed shape.
That's a valid distinction.
But I will totally concede that we would absolutely clock a traditional cult leader's bad filler in 2 seconds. Sorry, Supreme Leader, but your injector is committing a federal crime with that jawline, so I will not be joining your commune today.
Exactly. We'd be like, I am absolutely not joining your doomsday bunker until you learn how to properly blend your contour. We are simply too critical of aesthetics to surrender our autonomy to someone with bad skin texture.
Honestly, thank God for our toxicity. It is literally the only thing keeping us safe in this economy.
It's a survival skill.
It really is. And speaking of staying safe and hydrated, we are officially back in our lemon water era today.
Hydration is key.
We have massive tumblers of it right now. Hydration is key for basic survival, but more importantly, it is key for maintaining the glowing skin required to find a sugar daddy. which we desperately need if we are going to survive late-stage capitalism.
Like, I need to give an update on the sugar daddy hunt, and spoiler alert, it is going terribly.
Oh no, please tell me.
It is an unmitigated disaster. I am playfully but seriously dragging myself right now because the sheer delusion I'm operating under is unmatched. My current dating roster looks like a cast of background extras from a failed CW pilot from like 2012.
I am screaming, not a failed CW pilot.
I went out with a guy last week who seriously asked if we could split the bill for a $12 iced matcha.
Stop!
I wish I was kidding. I looked at him and was like, "Sir, I am actively looking for an older gentleman to fund my soft girl era and buy me Pilates packages. I am not looking for a roommate who needs me to Venmo them $6.42.
$6. The absolute audacity of men in this city. I can't. The dating pool doesn't just have pee in it, it is a biohazard.
It's a super fun site.
We need to elevate immediately. We need to channel some dark, impenetrable feminine energy, which is perfect because shifting gears to pure excitement for a second, we are heading to Salem this weekend.
Yes, oh my God, we are so unbelievably pumped.
The Booty Fall vibes, the witch history, the absolute chaos. I want to give a huge shout out to Jayla, Paige, and Lauren for inviting us out to dinner.
We are absolutely going.
We are so freaking excited to meet you guys and to actually meet Snarkers in real life again.
Right.
But I am already having a complete, full-scale outfit panic. Like, what is the exact sartorial dress code for getting messy and analyzing reality TV with listeners in a town that is literally famous for executing women who spoke out of turn?
Layering is key, obviously, and
Yeah.
lots of vintage leather. It's going to be the absolute best time. The sheer joy of sitting at a table with people who natively speak our highly specific language of reality TV snark.
I can't wait.
I can already predict exactly what level of messy the night will reach. We are going to be 3 cutwaters deep, dissecting editing tricks and continuity errors until the restaurant management physically asks us to leave the premises.
Oh my God. Speaking of Cutwater, casual manifestation moment.
Yeah.
Shout out to Cutwater. We are actively drinking them. We love them. And we are aggressively manifesting a corporate sponsorship.
Manifesting it so hard.
Not just because we genuinely enjoy the product, but because, babes, we love you and we are ready for the bag. Cutwater marketing team, please call our people.
Our DMs are wide open. But, you know, speaking of the mechanics of cults, psychological brainwashing and absolute delusion, that actually serves as the perfect transition into the core of today's analysis. Let's talk about the phenomenon of the hive mentality on this week's episode of The Valley.
Grab the lemon water and strap in, babes, because the streets of the valley are spectacularly messy this week. I feel like I need a medical-grade neck brace from the emotional whiplash this episode gave me.
It was an incredibly dense 42 minutes of television. We had severe childhood emotional trauma. We had invasive Brazilian waxes. We had literal doomsday bunkers. And we had the most pathetic, socially isolating game night in the history of Los Angeles County.
Let's start right at the top of the episode with a scene that actually ripped my heart completely out of my chest.
The gymnastics scene.
Yes. Nia and Michelle take their kids to this brightly colored gymnastics facility. And we find out Michelle was a hardcore competitive gymnast until she was 15 years old. She tells Nia her whole life was strictly disciplined. She lived entirely for the sport. She was tracking for the Olympics.
Right.
And then, out of nowhere, amidst the foam pits and balance beams, she drops this absolute emotional bombshell.
Yeah, the tonal shift in that scene was staggering. She reveals that she abruptly quit at 15 because her parents divorced. But it wasn't just your standard amicable suburban divorce. Her dad had an undiagnosed severe mental illness.
This is terrifying and profoundly sad to me. Michelle explains that her dad actually believed with total conviction that people were after them.
Paranoid delusions?
Yeah, exactly. He was experiencing such intense paranoia that he thought if he left the family, the imaginary people would follow him and his wife and daughter would be safe. He didn't abandon them because he didn't love them. He left them to protect them from a phantom threat.
It's so tragic.
And the detail that fully broke me. He actually sat down and asked 15-year-old Michelle for permission to leave. My heart was just breaking for that teenage girl.
It's an incredibly heavy revelation. And if we look at this analytically, if you look at how this specific type of trauma shaped Michelle's adult psychology, it perfectly explains her intensely guarded, hyper-perfectionist personality that we've seen scrutinized on the show.
Oh, totally.
Think about the concept of parentification. When a parent is dealing with severe paranoid schizophrenia or a similar delusion, and they ask their child for permission to leave, that child instantly becomes the adult.
Exactly. The roles are completely inverted in an instant.
Right, and she told Nia that gymnastics forced her to have a disciplined life, and she actually liked the strict schedule. When your home life feels that terrifyingly out of control, when the person supposed to protect you is fleeing from invisible enemies, you cling to control wherever you can find it.
Wow.
Usually that manifests in an extreme physical discipline, eating disorders, or, in Michelle's case, elite gymnastics. It makes total sense why she is so unbelievably stoic, why she visibly recoils from messy emotional displays, and why she always wants to project this bulletproof image of everything being perfectly fine. She spent her formative years managing a chaotic reality, so on a reality television show, which is designed to induce chaos, her instinct is to completely lock down.
That is such a brilliant point. She literally said in her confessional, life has thrown me so many curveballs, but I always just look forward. That is a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
You don't look back at the trauma because it will consume you.
Yeah.
And, her dad is still alive, still living in L.A. She mentioned he went to her mom's funeral and they recently got coffee. Michelle said even after all those years and all that untreated illness, she could still feel the deep love between her parents. It's just a profoundly tragic love story. It adds such an intricate layer of depth to Michelle that we really haven't seen in the first 2 seasons. It reframes her entire character from cold and calculating to deeply traumatized and self-protecting.
It really does. And of course, because the ecosystem of the Valley and reality television in general cannot allow a serious, poignant moment to exist in a vacuum without the internet completely derailing it.
Oh my God, I know where you're going with this.
While we are all sitting here practically in tears analyzing Michelle's childhood trauma, what is the rumor currently blowing up the Reddit threads and blind items about her?
The rumor that she is actively dating Dr. Dre.
I need someone to make this make sense to me logically. I really do.
I am spiraling over the sheer, unadulterated randomness of this pairing. Dr. Dre, the legendary hip-hop mogul, the billionaire architect of West Coast rap.
Where did they physically intersect in the universe?
Right. How does that first conversation even go? Michelle literally says in this very episode that her friends make fun of her for not knowing basic pop culture or what fast food is because she was locked in a gymnasium her entire childhood.
She doesn't know anything outside of her bubble.
One of the Reddit snarkers pointed it out perfectly. They were like, she doesn't know pop culture, so dating Dr. Dre, good for her. I just picture them sitting in total, utter silence in a cold, minimalist mega mansion in Brentwood.
It is the most Mad Libs dating rumor I have ever heard in my life. Former gymnast and Bravo star Michelle Lally is dating Death Row Records co-founder Dr. Dre.
It's incredible.
But you know what? If we look at the mechanics of rumors, this is actually brilliant for her SEO. Whether it's true or completely fabricated by a PR team, it instantly elevates her out of the petty Valley drama and positions her adjacent to actual billionaire-level fame. If anyone is going to secure the ultimate post-divorce bag, it's Michelle. Let her live.
Seriously. Get that Beats by Dre equity, honey. I am rooting for her.
Same.
Okay, so the show violently transitions from this heavy, deep emotional backstory to the absolute manufactured trauma of Bravo reality TV beauty treatments.
Ah, the salon waxing scene. The internet threads were losing their collective minds over this segment.
So Brittany, Kristen, and Zach are all grouped together getting beauty treatments. Brittany's getting a full Brazilian wax, and she proudly announces to the entire room and the camera crew that she will be bald as a biscuit.
A phrase that will quite literally haunt my nightmares for the rest of my natural life.
Right. Bald as a biscuit. But think about the setting here. She's screaming in physical pain. A woman is ripping hair out of her body, and Kristen is just hovering there for emotional support, holding her hand.
Just looming over the table.
And then Zach, who is getting a spray tan in the other room, wanders down the hall, and a tiny disposable paper thong walks past the open door of the treatment room and absolutely loses his mind.
It is top-tier, classic reality TV physical comedy. He screams, physically covers his eyes, runs away, and later in his confessional says, "I think I saw your uterus." Full flaps. Flapjacks. All in my face.
I was crying laughing. I literally had to pause the TV. But I want to push back on something you said earlier about the internet being cynical. People on Reddit were furious about this scene.
Really? Why?
They were posting things like, I am so completely over watching these women get spray tans and waxes. Can we retire this as a segment choice? And someone else said, seeing Brittany getting a Brazilian within the first 5 minutes had me questioning my own life choices and what the hell I'm doing watching this show.
I mean, I get the fatigue.
I get it too, but also, Zach's dramatic gay panic over female anatomy is exactly the kind of stupid low-stakes filler I want between the heavy psychological warfare.
I completely agree with you. The audience needs a palate cleanser. But let's actually analyze why producers still rely on the salon scene. It's not because we inherently care about their body hair. It's a literal mechanism of extraction.
What do you mean, like extracting hair?
No extracting gossip. Think about the physical dynamics of a salon chair or a waxing table. The
Mhm.
cast member is physically immobilized. They are in a vulnerable state.
Oh my God, you're right.
They cannot storm out of the room if the conversation gets heated because they are half naked and covered in hot wax. Producers use these environments because it traps the cast members into having conversations they might otherwise avoid. It's the same reason they film in moving cars. You are trapped, and the only way out is through the dialogue. So while it seems like mundane filler, it's actually a highly engineered pressure cooker for exposition.
That is so true. I never thought about it like that. It's literally a hostage situation with aesthetics. And Zach, walking in blindly was the chaotic variable the producers couldn't have scripted better. It broke the tension perfectly.
Hmm?
Because right after that, we get dropped into another deeply awkward, highly produced dynamic. Jesse, his daughter Isabella, and his new girlfriend, Lacey.
Okay, we need to unpack Lacey immediately because she is operating on a completely different frequency than anyone else on this network, and I think I am obsessed with her.
She is fascinating. So they go to lunch, and Jesse is doing his usual exhausting song and dance. He wants to show off for the cameras. He tells his daughter, "Oh, Isabella, show Lacey your little dance. Do the phonics dance." He is prompting her like a stage parent.
And Lacey, with the energy of a literal, unfeeling AI robot, just looks at him and deadpans. I
Yeah.
actually don't want you to force her to do anything for me because she is not a clown at the circus and she doesn't have to perform.
Boom. Completely shut down. I actually cheered in my living room. The people in the threads were loving it too. Someone commented, "I love how Lacey visibly hates Jesse."
She really does seem to despise him.
It is such an amazing psychological dynamic to watch because Jesse has spent his entire reality TV career, dating back to his brief appearances on other shows, trying to project this hyper-masculine, alpha male, real estate mogul energy. He desperately wants to be seen as the patriarch. And Lacey completely surgically emasculates him with a totally flat vocal fry.
She does. And what's wild is that he just accepts it. He completely folds. He even admits it later. A producer explicitly asks him in a confessional if he's the beta in the relationship, and he just aggressively, almost happily agrees.
Yes.
He says, yeah, I'm the beta. She is certainly an alpha. She hates my storytelling. Straight to the point. It is so satisfying to watch a woman just utterly refuse to stroke a Bravo man's ego. He is so used to women placating him, and she just refuses to participate in the charade.
And she doesn't stop there. She gives him unsolicited parenting advice on camera.
Yeah.
She tells him he shouldn't teach his kids about keeping secrets because it's a dangerous precedent, which, by the way, is objectively good advice.
Right.
But here is where the Lacey lore transcends regular reality TV and gets absolutely unhinged. She starts interrogating Jesse about his hoarding tendencies, calling out this massive trash bag full of toys in his garage. And Jesse defensively fires back, trying to deflect, and says, "I hoard. What about the end of the world go bag?"
And the moment he says that, Lacey's entire demeanor shifts. She gets incredibly serious. She looks at him and says, "Stop, that's private. I don't want anyone to know about that." And then, despite claiming she wants it private, she proceeds to explain the intricate details of her doomsday bunker to a national television audience.
It is the most contradictory, amazing behavior. Explain the bunker, because I was taking notes.
So she calmly explains that during COVID, her TikTok algorithm, bringing it back to our earlier point about algorithms hacking the brain, got stuck on doomsday bunkery, which honestly is somewhat relatable. We all went down weird rabbit holes in 2020.
Sourdough bread in the apocalypse.
Exactly, but instead of just watching the videos and moving on, she allowed the algorithm to dictate her reality. She actually went out and started buying sheets of acid tabs to purify contaminated water. She bought industrial generators, she purchased land and built a compound completely off the electrical grid. She casually refers to it as doomsday light because, in her own words, she doesn't think it's nuke-proof.
I am deciding right now, on the record, that I absolutely stan Lacey.
Me too.
The idea of this woman getting radically indoctrinated by TikTok preppers, buying acid tabs, and then using that terrifying apocalyptic energy to force Jessie Lally into total emotional submission is the exact narrative arc I want for Season 3. If she provides Wi-Fi and a steady supply of cut water, I will happily join her doomsday late bunker when society inevitably collapses.
We're packing our bags today. I'll bring the lemon water, you bring the portable chargers.
Fun.
But you know who isn't packing their bags happily? Kristen Doubt. We have to transition and talk about the Luke and Kristen drama, because the power dynamics here are getting incredibly dark.
It is getting very heavy. So Kristen is sitting down, complaining to Zach that things with Luke are bad. They are actively trying not to fight in front of their baby, Kaya.
Yeah.
But Kristen feels completely unheard and invalidated. The core rotting issue at the center of their relationship is that Luke constantly brings up how much he despises living in Los Angeles.
It's his only talking point.
He constantly nags her about California, the traffic, the lifestyle, and she feels like he fundamentally doesn't respect her or the life she has built.
And if we look at the Reddit theories, which act as a pretty solid barometer for audience perception, people are calling Luke out big time. The prevailing theory, and honestly the most logical one, is that Luke is deliberately, methodically manipulating Kristen. According to the timeline, they had a solid agreement long before the baby was born. The agreement was that they would stay in LA for the early developmental years, and then when Kaya was school age, they would compromise and move to Colorado or somewhere with more land. Luke verbally agreed to this, but now that the baby is here, he is constantly complaining, wearing his ridiculous McBee farm shirts and trying to wear Kristen down psychologically so she breaks and voids the agreement, moving them out of LA early.
Exactly. It is a war of attrition.
Yeah.
And someone on Reddit made the most salient point. They said, Luke, LA is where your new family is actively making their money. Shut up. Which is so true. Where does he think the Bravo paycheck comes from? It doesn't materialize from turning butter on a tractor in Colorado. It comes from Kristen Doubt fighting with Janet Caperna in a sports bar in West Hollywood.
He is literally biting the hand that feeds him. But I want to play devil's advocate for a second, because Luke has a completely different perspective, which he later shares with Zach. We can't just look at this from Kristen's side.
Okay, let's hear it.
Luke claims that he feels incredibly heavily scrutinized by Kristen on a daily basis. He says he feels like he's constantly fighting for the survival of the relationship, while she's just fighting to show him that he's wrong. He says the only time he ever criticizes her is about how she speaks to him, noting her tone and her aggression.
And I want to be totally fair here, because Kristen, who lacks a lot of things but rarely lacks self-awareness regarding her flaws, even admits that her default defense mechanism when things get bad is to go nuclear.
Oh, she definitely does.
She admits she just yells, just leave then. She goes straight for the jugular. She threatens the foundation of the relationship to test if he'll stay.
Yeah.
But we also have to contextualize her aggression here. She is dealing with intense, debilitating postpartum anxiety.
The postpartum anxiety is the elephant in the room, and it is very real. There's a scene where she tearfully tells the group that when they leave the house and the nanny is watching the baby, her anxiety spikes so high that she actually asks Luke, do you think she won't remember me anymore?
And Zach, bless his heart, uses humor to deflect and jokingly goes, she doesn't. She completely forgot about you. But beneath the joke, it highlights how incredibly vulnerable Kristen's psychological state is right now. Think about the evolutionary biology of postpartum. Her brain is wired to be terrified of separation. Her hormones are completely everywhere. She's trying to maintain her status on a highly competitive reality show. She's dealing with the physical toll of a new baby. And her partner, instead of being a steady rock, is essentially looking around and saying, I am miserable in the life you built. I fully 100% defend Kristen here. Luke is exploiting a moment of extreme vulnerability.
I agree with your assessment of Luke, but honestly, the true hero of this entire narrative arc is Zach Wickham acting as their unpaid on-call therapist. Zach is literally doing the work of a licensed professional.
He really is.
He is telling them directly, you guys are having a fundamental breakdown in communication. You need couples therapy. You need a neutral third-party person to act as a translator. You need someone to speak Kristen language to her and Luke language to him. He sits with Kristen, validates her fears without indulging her toxicity, and then later sits with Luke, listens to his grievances, and gently nudges him toward professional help.
I am officially demanding that Bravo give Zach an hourly consulting rate on top of his talent fee. He is doing the heavy emotional lifting to keep these relationships functional enough to film. But speaking of heavy lifting, let's transition to a woman who cannot lift herself out of the social exile she built for herself. Janet.
The game night Oh my God, the physical, visceral, secondhand embarrassment I felt watching this sequence unfold. It was a masterclass in how not to repair your image.
It was painful. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash.
Oh,
So let's set the scene. Janet has finally realized that everyone in the core cast is actively icing her out. Lala sits her down and tells her, hey, we haven't seen you around, which, if you speak fluent reality TV production, is code for, you haven't filmed a group scene in 2 weeks, the producers are getting annoyed, and your contract for next season is in imminent danger.
right. You are on the chopping block.
So Janet, in a panic, decides to host a game night at a local brewery to extend what she calls an olive branch.
And she casts a wide net. She invites everyone. She invites Danny, Nia, Zach, Kristen, and Luke, knowing full well they probably won't come, but she needs the paper trail of the invitation to prove to the audience that she's trying to mend fences.
And what is the reality? Absolutely none of the A-team shows up. Danny, Nia, Zach, Kristen, Jasmine, Melissa, they all collectively boycott.
Yeah.
And the editors, who deserve an Emmy for this specific sequence, did this shady, brilliant montage. They intercut the sad brewery with shots showing all of the boycotters peacefully sitting at home in their pajamas, watching TV, drinking wine, and not giving a single solitary fuck about Janet's game night.
It was cinematic art. It was Francis Ford Coppola-level editing. So who actually attends this desperate gathering? It's the B team and the contractual obligations. You have Lala, Schwartz, Michelle, Brittany, Jason, and some incredibly random seat fillers like Ariana Maddox's friend Logan is just sitting there in the background, uncredited, looking bewildered.
Poor Logan.
And Janet literally brought a giant homemade Plinko board to a brewery. Yeah. She is trying to desperately create this retro 70s family feud, whimsical vibe, and absolutely no one cares.
It's so pathetic. I cringed so hard I pulled a muscle. Here is the fundamental flaw in her logic. You cannot fix a year of deep betrayals, malicious gossip, and trash-talking your supposed friends behind their backs by suddenly serving them lukewarm buffalo chicken dip and asking them primary school multiplication questions. Yellow and blue makes what color? Green. Like, congratulations, Janet. You know basic color theory, but you still don't have any real friends.
It's treating a bullet wound with a Band-Aid. And the hypocrisy of Janet in this scene is absolutely staggering. She claims she wants peace. She claims she just wants to organically coexist. But the minute the game is over and she has a captive audience of Lala and Brittany, she immediately drops the whimsical host act and plays the victim. She starts whining, literally crying that it's 10 against 1.
Which is such a manipulative, deeply narcissistic framing. It's not 10 against 1 because you are a targeted victim of a conspiracy. It's 10 individual people independently looking at your behavior and deciding that you were too toxic to be around. It's a consensus, not a conspiracy.
Exactly. It's cause and effect, not victimization. And then, to prove why she's the victim, she brings up this incredibly specific, highly damaging grievance. She complains to the group that Danny liked an Instagram comment. And what is the comment? She reads it out loud, that Jason likes to watch Janet have sex with other men in front of him.
I physically gasped. I dropped my phone. Why on God's green earth would you bring that up on camera?
Right. This is the ultimate example of reality TV self-immolation. Literally no one, outside of maybe 3 people deep in a Reddit thread, knew about this specific Instagram comment until Janet decided to announce it to the world on a Bravo broadcast. She literally Streisand-affected her own cuckold rumor.
It is the dumbest PR move in the history of television. If you don't want people talking about a rumor, do not introduce it into the official show narrative. And she's screaming about it, looking directly at Brittany, looking for sympathy. And Brittany, who's just trying to survive, throws her hands up like, whoa, don't look at me. This isn't me. I didn't like the comment. Brittany is so stressed out because she just wants to drink her weird, sugary pizza party drinks and absolutely not be placed in the middle of a sexual rumor.
Brittany is so pathologically conflict avoidant, it actually hurts to watch.
Yeah.
Which leads us perfectly into the next major set piece, Brittany's pool party redo. Now, let's be clear about the mechanics of this event. The whole purpose of this party isn't to celebrate anything. It is a mandatory producer-mandated call time to force the entire cast to physically film in the same location before they leave for the cast trip to San Diego.
Grab your life vests, because the pool party is where the episode title, The Hive Mentality, finally comes into play. So everyone is there. There's a lot of chaotic background action going on. The guys are playing aggressive beer pong. Michelle and Schwartz are awkwardly denying dating rumors while standing very close to each other. Kristen is doing tactical maneuvers around the pool to avoid eye contact with Janet.
And then Brandon, Brittany's brand new boyfriend, decides to disastrously step out of his lane.
Oh my God, the internet was tearing him apart for this, and rightly so. So Brandon, who's been around for 5 minutes, walks up to Kristen Doubt, a 10-year veteran of Bravo psychological warfare, and tells her, be nice to Janet today. Just be your sweet, lovable self. Do it for the love of Brittany, because this tension really stresses Brittany out.
The absolute unmitigated audacity of this man. He thinks he can police Kristen Doubt's behavior. He is a rookie stepping onto the court with Michael Jordan and telling her how to dribble.
I am completely siding with Kristen and the Snark Squad commenters here. Kristen literally says in her confessional, perfectly deadpan, Brandon has a very tiny lane in Brittany's life, and he needs to stay in it. Mind your business, bro. One commenter broke it down perfectly. They said, I hate how much Brandon clearly loves the camera. He's trying so hard to organically insert himself into the drama, exactly like Brock Davies did on Vanderpump Rules.
It's so transparently thirsty. He realizes the only way to guarantee his contract gets renewed is to interject himself into the primary conflict. But the real towering delusion at this pool party doesn't come from Brandon. It comes from Lala. Lala is sitting on a daybed with Jasmine and Michelle. Jasmine, very calmly and rationally, explains that she didn't feel comfortable going to Janet's game night after everything Janet had done to her friends.
Right.
And Lala, acting like the supreme moral authority of the universe, looks at them with this condescending glare and says, it looks like you, as a group of people, are all making the exact same decision on Janet. There seems to be a hive mentality happening. It doesn't seem like you guys are thinking for yourselves.
The absolute staggering nerve of this woman. Let's pause and look at the history here. First of all, Lara was the architect of the biggest, most aggressive hive mentality on Vanderpump Rules last season, when she actively tried to force Ariana to film with Sandoval against her will. How does she lack the self-awareness to see the irony in her own statement?
She doesn't see the irony because she isn't speaking as a friend. She is speaking as an amateur producer. She knows exactly how the sausage is made. She knows Janet has alienated herself to the point of having no one to film with. So Lala is trying to guilt and shame the rest of the cast into interacting with Janet for the sake of moving the narrative forward. She is trying to manufacture a bridge, but her delivery is so incredibly condescending that it completely alienates Jasmine.
And it completely backfires. It does the exact opposite of what she intended. Jasmine immediately stands up, walks over to Kristen and Zach and tells them exactly what Lala just accused them of. And Kristen, who lives for this exact type of confrontation, activates peak form.
She was ready.
She starts marching around the perimeter of the pool, grabbing people individually and aggressively asking them, Danny, Zach, Melissa, do you make decisions for yourselves or do I make them for you? Are you incapable of free thought? And they all, obviously, say we make our own decisions. It's not a hive mind, Lala. People just genuinely, individually do not like the way Janet treats them.
It's an organic, earned dislike. But this boiling tension, all this whispering and marching around the pool, finally culminates in the big showdown of the episode. Zach and Janet finally sit down face to face.
The main event, the clash of the titans. Janet comes over and you can see her instantly deploying her PR strategy. She uses her soft, breathy voice. She sits down, looks at him with big eyes and says, maybe it's a thing where you and I just coexist. She wants to just gloss over a year of toxicity without addressing the root cause.
But Zach is not having it. He comes to the table armed and ready. The recaps noted that Zach's list of receipts on Janet are longer than a CVS receipt. He refuses to let her gaslight him with soft tones. He immediately brings up the specific incident at the previous pool party where Janet twisted the narrative, ran to the group, and told people Kristen kicked her out, when in reality, Janet chose to leave.
He traps her in her own lie. He clinically points out that her specific language choices and how she constantly paraphrases events is a calculated, manipulative tactic designed to make her the victim. And you know what shocked me? Janet actually folds. The pressure is too high, and she drops the act. She admits he's right. She verbally admits she needs to stop paraphrasing how she feels and stick to the objective facts.
But Zach doesn't let her off the hook there. He senses blood in the water and pushes further. He asks her directly, how do you feel about me and Danny right now? Janet tries to dodge the question, using the classic reality TV deflection, I'm not going to talk about other people who aren't here. And Zach delivers the line of the episode. He looks her dead in the eye and says, when you take things to a certain level, you want destruction. You want to destroy the other person entirely, and then you'll graciously accept them back. Because you always have to be right. You always have to be on a pedestal.
I mean, it was a profound read. It was a clinical, precise, devastating read of Janet's exact psychological profile. And Janet, realizing she's completely trapped and that her usual deflections aren't working, completely changes tactics mid-conversation. She eats crow, she looks down, adopts a tone of deep vulnerability, and says, I don't want to be on a pedestal. I am personally grappling with the fact that I always need to be right. And then she plays her absolute trump card. She compliments Zach's character.
It was a terrifying masterclass in narcissistic manipulation. She looks at Zach and tells him that she actually deeply admires how he handled the drama last year with Danny, Nia, Jasmine, and Melissa. She tells him he was incredibly supportive to his friends without inserting himself into the drama, and she humbly admits that she should have done exactly what he did.
And of course, the trap springs. Zach's ego lights up like a Christmas tree. He is a reality star. He wants to be validated. He's like, okay, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to hear. I was right. You admit I'm great. And they basically hug it out. The tension diffuses. Janet then wanders over, successfully smokes weed with Kristen, and the episode ends on this weird, highly tense, fragile peace treaty.
Okay, let's break this resolution down to its studs because I know you have thoughts.
Yeah.
Do you actually genuinely believe Janet Caperna has changed her behavior?
Okay, I have to admit, I feel a tiny, microscopic, subatomic sliver of sympathy for how isolated she is. It fundamentally cannot feel good as a human being to walk into a party where Danny literally says out loud, I'm allergic to Capernas, and the entire room physically parts to avoid you. That level of rejection stings. But do I think she's experienced a genuine moral awakening and changed? Absolutely not. Not for a second.
I agree completely. If we look at this coldly, without the emotion of the music cues, Janet apologized for one reason and one reason only. She looked at the call sheets and realized that she had 0 screen time for 2 full episodes. In reality TV economics, that means your paycheck is in severe jeopardy. You are being actively phased out of the narrative.
Yeah, that makes sense.
She knows, mathematically, she needs someone to film with to stay on the show. So she swallowed her massive pride, specifically complimented Zach to disarm his anger, and successfully secured her spot on the cast trip to San Diego next week. It was not an apology. It was a purely transactional business negotiation.
Wow. When you lay it out like that, it is cold-blooded and ruthless. She wasn't seeking forgiveness, she was securing her bag, which is actually the absolute perfect transition to our first segment of the show today. It is time for Cult Leader or Just Confident.
I love this segment so much. The concept is simple. We are breaking down the core cast members of this show and deciding who possesses genuine, low-key cult leader energy and who is just loud, wrong, and overly confident.
I'll kick us off with Lala Kant. My verdict. Yeah. Loud and wrong. So unbelievably loud, so fundamentally wrong. She parachutes into this friend group, tries to instantly command the room, and acts like this enlightened, sober, moral authority preaching about the dangers of the Hive mentality.
Right.
But here's the thing. She isn't actually leading anyone. No one is following her. She's just transparently trying to produce the show on camera, and everyone sees right through the scaffolding. She has 0 disciples.
Completely agree. A successful cult leader requires subtlety, charisma, and the ability to make people think following them is their own idea. Lala has none of those traits. She uses a sledgehammer.
Which brings us to Lacey, Jesse's girlfriend. My verdict. Elite, terrifying, low-key cult leader energy.
Oh, 1,000 times yes. She is the supreme. Think about the mechanics of her personality. She speaks in this incredibly calm, unbothered, hypnotic monotone. She doesn't have to raise her voice to command attention. She completely controls Jesse, a man who prides himself on not being controlled without ever breaking a sweat. She dictates the exact parameters of how he parents his own child. And most crucially, she is quite literally building an off-the-grid doomsday compound in the desert and hoarding water purification chemicals. She is systematically preparing for the end of the world, and she is gathering resources. That is textbook cult leader behavior.
I am telling you right now, if Lacey officially starts a compound and opens applications, the Snark squad is pulling up in a fleet of Honda Civics. As long as she guarantees high-speed Wi-Fi and a pallet of Cutwater, we are willingly joining the cult of Lacey. We will wear the matching sweatsuits.
Oh, totally. What about Zach? Where does he fall on the spectrum?
Zach is fascinating because he is incredibly loud, but he is actually right. He does not have cult leader energy at all. He has the exact opposite. He has the frenetic energy of a cult deprogrammer. He's the guy your family hires to kidnap you in the middle of the night. He's the guy holding the intervention in a motel room with a whiteboard, pointing to his CVS-length receipts, desperately explaining to you how you've been brainwashed by Janet's paraphrasing.
That is the perfect analogy. He's the guy who physically pulls you out of the compound and forces you to confront reality. Okay, moving on to segment 2, Delusion Meter. We are going to rate Key unhinged moments from this episode on a strict clinical scale of 1 to 10, ranging from harmless everyday delusion to full institutional reality detachment.
Let's start with Jesse Lally genuinely believing and stating on camera that he is the alpha in his relationship with Lacey.
Oh, that breaks the scale. That is a 10 out of 10. Full, untethered reality detachment. Jesse still firmly believes he's on an episode of Million Dollar Listing, playing the big, swinging real estate tycoon who controls the room. Meanwhile, Lacey is running their entire relationship like a covert black ops military operation. He is visibly terrified of her, yet he calls himself an alpha. 10 out of 10 delusion.
I completely agree. It's sad, honestly. Okay, what about Janet believing that hosting a whimsical brewery game night with a homemade Plinko board is going to magically fix a year of deep, fundamental betrayals?
I'll give that a very solid 8 out of 10. It's highly delusional, but there is a desperate logic to it. You simply cannot erase a year of systematically trash-talking your closest friends behind their backs by suddenly serving them lukewarm buffalo chicken dip and asking them primary school trivia questions. The fact that she genuinely thought Danny and Nia would happily show up to drop a chip down a Plinko board after she publicly insulted the foundation of their marriage is wild delusion.
Plinko for peace. It's an 8 out of 10 for sure. Last one on the meter, Luke thinking that Kristen Doubt, of all people, will happily abandon her entire life and move to a farm in Colorado.
9 out of 10. Absolute profound delusion.
Have you met Kristen Doubt? Have you studied the historical texts of Bravo? She is the chaotic patron saint of West Hollywood. She chain smokes on patios in L.A. She doesn't milk cows. The mental image of Kristen Doubt churning butter on a tractor in rural Colorado while Luke wears his little McBee farm shirt. It is a physical impossibility. It is never going to happen. He is deeply delusional to think he can change her fundamental zip code and personality.
He fundamentally misunderstands the core DNA of the woman he had a child with. Okay, segment 3. Group chat fallout. We're going to use our analytical skills to recreate the messy, highly specific, heavily encrypted private group chats that were absolutely firing off the morning after this episode finished filming.
Okay, I'm pulling up the conceptual chat named Allergic to Capernas. The active members in this chat are Danny, Nia, Zach, and Kristen.
So the timeline starts at 8 a.m. sharp. Danny kicks it off by sending a silent gif of someone breaking out in aggressive red hives, referencing the pool party.
Yes. And then Zach immediately replies, not with a meme, but with a literal 9-paragraph, single-spaced essay analyzing the micro-expressions in body language Janet displayed during her fake apology. It's like, notice how her left eye involuntarily twitched when she complimented my conflict resolution skills. It's a psychopathic tell. She's mirroring my empathy to disarm me.
Nia responds an hour later with a single, simple praying hands emoji because she is desperately trying to maintain her brand of staying above the fray, but she secretly reads every word and loves the drama.
And then Kristen, acting in peak chaotic form, accidentally sends a screenshot of Janet's private Instagram story directly into the group chat with the caption, "Look at the absolute audacity of this bitch."
Yeah.
But she actually meant to send it to just Zach in a side text. Classic millennial tech fail.
The panic of trying to unsend a photo. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, let's look at the chat. Named We're Producing the Show, the only 2 members are Lala and Janet.
Oh, the energy in this chat is incredibly dark and desperate. Janet is sending consecutive 4-minute-long voice notes, audibly hyperventilating and crying, playing the ultimate victim.
Lala, no one understands my heart. I just want peace and light. Why does Danny hate me so much? I made a Plinko board.
And Lala, instead of offering actual advice, is just replying with these empty bumper sticker platitudes she learned in therapy. Ovary up, babe. You're a lion. They are sheep. It's a hive mentality. Protect your peace.
But the kicker, the real reality TV twist, is that while Lala is sending those hyping, supportive texts to Janet on iMessage, she's simultaneously texting the Bravo executive producers on WhatsApp saying, Janet is a total liability and a lost cause. She's giving us nothing usable. Cut her flight from the San Diego trip.
The absolute chilling betrayal. Lala is ruthless when it comes to the call sheet. Which brings us to our final segment of the day, if we ran the narrative. How would we spin the story if we were hired as Janet's crisis PR team to do damage control right now? Oh, I have thought about this extensively. If I am her publicist, I would go full, unabashed emotional spin. I would tell Janet to lean into the vulnerability angle as hard as humanly possible. Postpartum isolation is tough. Being a new mom on television is tough. I would book her on a major podcast, not ours, obviously, maybe Shiana Shea's, and I would tell her to show up with zero mascara on, wearing a messy bun, looking physically exhausted.
Go for the tears.
Yes, she needs to cry real tears and say that the compounded stress of reality TV and new motherhood literally fractured her brain. She needs to say the exact phrase, "I pushed the people I loved away because I was drowning and I didn't know how to ask for a life raft." You play the ultimate undeniable sympathy card.
See, that is the emotional human route, and it might work on a small percentage of casual viewers.
Right.
But if I am her cutthroat PR strategist, I'm telling her to abandon that immediately and go the ruthless reality TV survival route. Stop playing the victim today. The woe is me, everyone hates me routine makes for great Reddit snark, but it makes for absolutely terrible television. The audience respects a villain. They despise a whining villain.
That is a really interesting point. So what is the actual tactical maneuver? What does she do?
She needs to fully, unapologetically lean into her villain era. Own the mess. Stop apologizing for paraphrasing and start owning the manipulation. Show up to the reunion looking incredible and say, yeah, I said it, and what are you going to do about it? Bring hard receipts. But the real genius move, if she really wants to secure her spot for season 4 and become indispensable to the network, she needs to aggressively pivot and start a massive, unexpected feud with Lala. Take down the producer's pet. If Janet suddenly attacks Lala's hypocrisy, the audience will actually start rooting for Janet because everyone is currently exhausted by Lala's holier-than-thou act. She needs to become the anti-hero.
Oh my God, a Janet versus Lala feud? That is actually Machiavellian brilliance. It redirects all the heat. Bravo! Fire your current story producers and hire my bestie immediately.
I am officially available for hourly consulting.
Baze, what an absolute marathon of an episode. Before we wrap this up and let you guys go, I just have this one final, chaotic, intrusive thought circling my brain that I cannot let go of.
What is it?
The visual, the sheer physical comedy of Zach Wickham wearing nothing but a tiny disposable paper spray tan thong, physically sprinting away down a brightly lit salon hallway to escape the traumatic sight of Kristen Dute's waxing table.
Yeah.
It belongs framed in the Louvre. It is high art.
It was, without exaggeration, the most pure, organic, unscripted moment of comedy we have been gifted on this network in years. Full flaps.
Flapjacks. I'm going to be randomly shouting that in my apartment all week. All right, Snark Squad, that is officially all we have for today's massive recap. A huge, heartfelt thank you for tuning in, for being the absolute sharpest, best community on the internet, and for matching our unhinged, analytical energy week after week.
We truly live for your comments, your theories, and your pushback. Please remember to share this episode with your own messy reality TV group chats. Hit subscribe wherever you're currently listening. And seriously, please DM us your own chaotic dating stories or your tragic sugar daddy updates. I desperately need to know. I am not the only one suffering in these trenches right now.
Yes, send us all the mess. We are currently packing our vintage leather for Salem. We are manifesting that Cutwater sponsorship into existence, and we are so incredibly ready for whatever apocalyptic disaster awaits this cast in San Diego next week.
It is going to be an absolute bloodbath.
Stay hydrated.
Stay delusional.
And we will see you on the Snark side.